LETSHUOER's D13, one dynamic driver IEM from one of our most favorite brands on this channel. We all know and love the S12, the Z12, and I've tried the Kinda Lava recently, and it's pretty awesome as well. So needless to say, hopes are very high for the D13 here, and in this video, we'll be talking about this IEM, reviewing it, and comparing it to Aria, the S12, and a little bit of DUNU Titan S as well. Hey friends, Tim here, welcome back to a video on Giz Audio. Today we have the D13 by LETSHUOER. Now, like I said again, the S12 is an amazing IEM. One of my most favorite IEMs. I actually use that surprisingly a lot, even amongst a lot of my in-game IEMs. It is, I would consider it almost a daily driver in a way. Not quite, but almost a daily driver. Now, the D13 is a completely different IEM than the S12. The S12 is more of a V-shaped IEM, also it's a planar. It has a lot of focus on the bass and especially the treble area. The D13 is more of a neutral IEM, a little bit leaning on the bass side, not too much. The treble here is a lot more relaxed than the S12. So as you can see, the sound signature is just, you can't compare them. They're just different IEMs in its entirety. We'll be comparing these IEMs more towards the end of the video in the comparison section, but for now, let's just jump into the sound signature of the D13, starting with the bass. Now the bass on the D13 is probably the most interesting thing about this IEM. The bass is generally well controlled. It doesn't have uber power though, so it's not really a bass head kind of IEM. It is slightly bit on the bassy side overall tonality wise, but I wouldn't say it has enough power to satisfy the true bass lovers out there. It has just good amount of power, but what's interesting about it is that it hits really clean and tight. It's punchy, it's dynamic, and is fun overall. Now the sub bass here do have a rumble to it, though I don't think is uber rumbly. I feel like the mid bass and the sub bass are pretty on par here in terms of what you can perceive with your ears. Bass texture on here though, I would say is a little bit lacking. I feel like it's a little bit kind of one-dimensional in a way. You get the tightness, the slam, the impact, yes, but in terms of the meat, the texture of the bass, I just feel like it lacks a little bit there. The details on it is just alright. On to the mid-range. I would say the bass and the lower mid separation is generally clean. It has a little bit of warmth if you were to really nitpick it, but clean nonetheless. Leading into the upper mids, I would say energy-wise it's good, but it is a little bit misplaced, especially in the 1.5 to 2 kHz region. It is a little bit overemphasized there, which has the biggest effect on female vocals for me. They come across honky, not shouty, but honky, a little bit strange in the tonality there. Funny thing is, it's really only prominent on female vocals. They just feel a little bit extra forward, but not in a natural way, if you will. Male vocals are less affected by this. I feel like male vocals do sound good off the D13. Is forward, yes, but not as strange as you do get on female vocals. So not my favorite mid-range. The honkiness does come across a little strong and can be distracting on certain songs, but it's by no means the worst mids I've ever heard. Some people might not even notice this if you're not sensitive to that area, but for me, it's there and it's very noticeable. Now on to the treble. I would say this has, I wouldn't say dark treble, but a very relaxing treble. You're not gonna get sense of air in this. You're gonna get okay extension, but nothing sparkly, nothing that highlights the micro nuances of the song, nothing to really like tickle your brains in all the right spots that sparkly treble can do, nothing like that. But it is there. It's not entirely dark, but I wish there was more of it. In terms of smoothness and harshness, I would say it's relatively okay. I didn't notice any harshness really from this IEM, which is a good thing. Sibilances are also not there as well, so that's also another good point, but it just needs quite a bit more treble, at least to my ears. Now, you guys know my taste. I like a bit of sparkle in the treble, but you know, that's my personal preference. For those of you who really want something relaxing, I can see you enjoying the treble on here more than I would. Or if you're someone who's extra sensitive to treble area and you want something that just doesn't have too much treble at all, then again, I see you guys enjoying this way more than I do. Just for me, I want just more more treble, at least on the case of the D13. Next, we have technical performance. Let's bring up my scale. Now, before we land the D13 on the scale, let's land its competitors, right? Moondrop Aria, DUNU Titan S, and also the S12 from the same company. And you know, as you can see, those are where it all ranks, the S12 being the most resolving out of the three here, and the D13 lands right around, yeah, right around the Aria and the Titan S. So not a bad resolving IEMs at all, actually pretty decent, especially for the price. The Titan and the Aria, of course, looking to be a little bit of better value here for details because it is a full $40 cheaper than the D13. But again, for $120 to land right on this spot, it's not bad. It's actually kind of the standard. I would say the biggest hindrance to the detail performance of the D13 has to be the soundstage. Now, the soundstage on this is really nice in some ways and not so nice in the other. The really nice part is depth. It has good depth, bass hits deep, also has good height as well, has some grandeur feeling to it. But the width is pretty, I wouldn't say super narrow, but it's not wide in any sense. The Aria, the Titan S are both wider width-wise than the D13, and with the width being kind of on a narrow side, imaging is also a bit of a mess. It is good, but not to the level that I would say 120 is supposed to have. So soundstage and imaging is not the strongest point of this IEM. Again, the depth department is really nice, arguably one of the better ones in the price range, but the width needs some work. Now on to the comparison section. Let's first compare the D13 to the Moondrop Aria. The Moondrop Aria and the D13 are tuned kind of similar in the bass area. The mid-range is where you find the biggest amount of difference, and also the treble area as well. The upper mids on the Aria is smoother. It doesn't have that little bit of honkiness that you'll get on the D13. So the Aria do feel more natural and more open, neutral mid-range, if you will, while the D13 has the vocalist or has the mid-range a little bit forward, but again, in a little bit of a honky way. So the Aria wins in mid-range here. Bass dynamics is a win for the D13. It feels generally tighter and more satisfying, well-defined overall than on the Aria. The treble area is a toss-up. The Aria has okay treble, not the best extension, but it does have some sense of air, though it does come with some harshness as well. The D13 lacks the harshness that the Aria has, but also has a lot less treble. So between these two, I don't really have a favorite. There's pros and cons for each of them. If you want some treble, then the Aria is going to be better, but do keep in mind it does come with some harshness, also a little bit unevenness. But if you want something more relaxing, the D13 is going to be better. Just keep in mind you're not going to get a lot of treble. Next is D13 versus DUNU Titan S. Similar story with the Aria here for the most part, especially in the mid-range section. The mids on the DUNU Titan S is generally more smooth, more neutral, and more correct than on the D13. Bass-wise, I still give D13 the win here for the better dynamics and also more power than the DUNU Titan S as well. Treble area is a similar story. The DUNU Titan S is gonna be on the brighter side in comparison to the D13, but it does come with a little bit of unevenness similar to the Aria. If you want a more relaxing side, the D13 is still the way to go. And last but not least, the D13 versus the S12. Now, if you were to choose from this company, which one should you get? D13 that costs $120, or the S12 that costs $150, or sometimes you find the S12 on sale for $120, same price as the D13. One is dynamic driver, one is planar. Which one should you choose? For me, it's quite an easy win for the S12, but the biggest but ever, the S12 has a lot of treble. So those of you who are sensitive to treble, the S12 is not going to be the best fit for you. But in terms of tonal balance, vocal correctness, the bass rumble, the S12 just does it better. And the one thing that the S12 does so much better than the D13 is the soundstage. It completely eclipses the D13 there. The S12 is nice and wide, has good depth, just as good as the D13. So one can say the S12 kind of outclassed the D13 in many different aspects. Though again, the biggest but is the treble. If you're sensitive to treble, the S12 is gonna be tough. While the D13 It's gonna be more relaxing, easier to listen to, but arguably just not as good in a lot of ways. But it is $30 cheaper MSRP, so if that justifies it for you, and if the sound signature fits what you're looking for, this is still a solid choice at the price. The detail level is up there and appropriate for the money they're charging, so yeah, still a good choice. But for me, if you have extra bit of money, an extra $30 or so, and you don't mind Treble all so much, the S12 is just an amazing deal. Alright, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. In summary, I guess, the D13 for me lands in quite a strange area. It does have one selling point, being the bass dynamics is tight, it's overall satisfying and well controlled. One of the better bass in the $100 area, but the rest of the frequency range does need some work. The mid-range is gonna be a toss-up for some. Some might not feel the honkiness. I feel the honkiness for sure. Treble is gonna be a favorite for some as well. Some people who like a more relaxing treble tonality will enjoy the treble more on a D13 than I will, so that's up to preference as well. But yeah, overall, it's a good IEM, just released in a price tag that is so competitive nowadays, so it's really hard to outright recommend it unless you're one of those specific users that feel like the D13 is a perfect match for you. Then by all means, get the D13.